Bonjour! So I'm going to go over chapter 7 for a quick tutorial. Of course, you can always go back to your ebook. The chapter starts on page 194 and the vocab summary is on page 222. So this chapter is important for three things: verbs, to have to, devoir, to be able to, pouvoir, and to want, vouloir, as well as to know, savoir. Tense, passé composé, which will come back and back and back many times as you learn French. So how to express an action in the past tense. Sometimes you use the verb avoir, sometimes you use the verb être, and the past form, which is called past participle. And the third important thing in this chapter is vocabulary about entertainment, having fun, movies, all the fun stuff we used to do before COVID-19 hit and closed venues. In France, you cannot go to the theater, you cannot go to the playhouse, or you cannot go see a show, a concert. Right now, everything's still frozen. Anyway, coming back to the chapter 7. So follow with the ebook, go to page 194. You'll see that it starts with depuis combien de temps, for how long, depuis quand, since when. You don't really need to focus on that, just browse through. You use the present tense in French. So you say, j'habite à Houston depuis 10 ans. J'habite à Houston depuis 2011. I've lived in Houston for 10 years. I've lived in Houston since 2011. So en français, you don't say I have lived, but you say I live, je vis or j'habite, and then you just do your duration. For example, if you've recently become a vegetarian, je ne mange plus de viande. I no longer eat meat. Je ne mange plus de viande depuis, since 2014, depuis 2014, or depuis 7 ans, for 7 years. Does that make sense? Like I said, this is not really important. You just need to know the difference between French and English with the tense you use in English and the tense we use in French. Now, the next section is really important on page 199 because it's got all the vocabulary about entertainment, shows, movies. So you have to memorize that. It gives you extra vocab like action movie, sci-fi movie, a thriller. So you have to memorize all those words. If you click on the play icon, it will pronounce it for you. You know the drill by now. And then the next section, which starts on page 204, is the one I really want to focus on. So the verbs vouloir, pouvoir, devoir, and savoir, they have a very specific conjugation. Vouloir means to want. Devoir means to have to. And then pouvoir means to be able to or can. And savoir means to know. And you have the conjugation that you need to memorize. It's on page 204 for savoir. Je sais, tu sais, il sait with a T. Nous savons, vous savez, ils savent. And then for the next verb, vouloir. It's section 7.2. My mistake. It's still 7.1 for vouloir. 7.2, pouvoir. 7.3, passé composé. So, to conjugate the verb vouloir, to want, it's je veux, V-E-U-X, tu veux, V-E-U-X, il veut, V-E-U-T, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent, V-E-U-L-E-N-T. You all know the song Lady Marmalade. I will not translate, but voulez-vous is the vous form of the verb vouloir. I will not sing that passage or translate it, but voulez-vous means do you want or do you all want? Okay? Then you have the verb pouvoir, which follows a similar conjugation. Je peux, tu peux, il peut, XXT, nous pouvons, ONS, vous pouvez, easy, ils peuvent, P-E-U-V-E-N-T. And then the verb devoir, to have to express obligation, is a little bit different. It works more like to drink, boire, which you already learned. Remember, boire, B-O-I-S, je bois, tu bois, il boit, B-O-I-T. Well, the verb devoir is je dois, D-O-I-S, tu dois, D-O-I-S, il doit, D-O-I-T. Nous devons, D-E-V-O-N-S, vous devez, D-E-V-E-Z, and then ils doivent, D-O-I-V-E-N-T, just like the last person for boire was ils boivent, B-O-I-V-E-N-T. So all of this is grammar, conjugation, not a lot of fun, but you have to know it. So now you know the 4 verbs in the present: savoir, to know, vouloir, to want, pouvoir, to be able to, and devoir, to have to. The next thing that chapter 7 is about is Passe Composing. So I encourage you to go on YouTube and browse at French Passe Composing videos. Most of the time, for like 99% of the French verbs, you're gonna use 2 things because it's composed of 2 things. The present of avoir, j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, and then the past participle. For example, for to eat, manger, j'ai mangé, tu as mangé, with the E accent, il a mangé, nous avons mangé, vous avez mangé, ils ont mangé. For verb finir, to finish, j'ai fini, F-I-N-I, tu as fini, il a fini, nous avons fini, vous avez fini, ils ont fini. So most of the verbs are gonna work like that with avoir. Some verbs are irregular, like faire. The past of faire is fait, F-A-I-T. Voir, to see. The past of voir is vu, V-U. So look at your irregular verbs, and you can just use avoir in the present and then your irregular past form of your verb. Sometimes, of course, because French is French, you're not going to use the present form of avoir and your past participle, but you're going to use the present form of être. When? For motion verbs, or verbs expressing feelings, or verbs expressing a change of state, like to go from life to death, mourir, or to go from one place to another place, like to go, aller, or to come, venir. Those motion verbs, they're gonna use être. So, of course, you need to know the present form of être by heart. Je suis, tu es, il est, est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. And then you're going to use the past form of your motion verb, which you're going to memorize. So we'll come back on that in the next chapters, but there is a way to remember, and I can't believe the book actually uses what I use in class. On page 212, you're gonna see the list of verbs that require you to use the être form, and there's also a video to help you memorize it. So the trick is Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp with 2 P's. The first letter of the acronym Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp help you memorize the verbs that use être in the passé composé. So, for example, descendre, rentrer, and it's all on page 212. It will make more sense if you follow along with the ebook. So, descendre, rentrer, monter, rentrer, sortir, venir, arriver, naître, devenir, entrer, retourner, tomber, revenir, aller, mourir, passer, partir. Please look at page 212 and memorize. You have 17 verbs out of an infinity of verbs that you have to memorize, and those are the ones you use with être in the passé composé. Like I said, there's also a video that explains the motion verbs, and that pretty much covers chapter 7. Let's go together to page 222, which is the summary the page. So you have your questions and expressions, depuis quand, since when, depuis combien de temps, for how long. Then you have a bunch of ER verbs or verbs that you have to memorize, those that use avoir, those that use être, and the verbs we learned in the present, which were savoir, devoir, pouvoir, and vouloir. And then you have your entertainment vocab at the bottom of the page, with events or cultural venues or items that you can look at, memorize. And I think in the quiz, you also need to know your indefinite pronouns like nobody, personne, quelque chose, something, quelque part, somewhere, quelqu'un, someone, and rien, nothing. So just look at that. It will be helpful when you take the quiz. The quiz has 5 questions that are 20 points each. They're pretty easy compared to your last quiz. Last quiz was 50 points, and it was a mistake, so I will double that grade and make it 100. This quiz, though, my bad. The first quiz you guys took was 50 points. Last quiz was 100 points. This quiz is 100 points. And next quiz should be 100 points. So when you see your grade for the quiz, please check how many points your grade is out of, because the first quiz was like 46, 33, and I realized, oh, it was only out of 50. So I will definitely double that first grade. But now you guys should be out of 100 for all quizzes. And the extra credit video, which was due on March 14th, will be substituted for your lowest quiz grade for the semester. Okay, I think that's it. Merci beaucoup and see you next time. À bientôt. Au revoir.